Book 20. Odysseus gets ready for the next day. He knows that the revenge is the next day. He's only a beggar after all, so he gets ready to sleep on some old blankets that are just put in a corner of the room, not Penelope's room, but down in the main hall. And as he's sleeping, as he starts to fall asleep, he is furious to see female servants sneaking off to go sleep with the suitors. He is so upset at the way the servants are acting. He tosses and turns and he can't sleep. Lines 25 through 32 here. He says, in this way Odysseus scolded his heart, and his heart in obedience beat steady and strong. But the great hero himself tossed and turned. It was like a man roasting a paunch stuffed with fat and blood over a fire. He can't wait for it to be done, and so he keeps turning it over and over and over again. So he's tossing and turning. His biggest fear is that he says to himself, how will he defeat so many suitors? There's over 100. Odysseus doubts he can do it, and Athena is a little upset. She appears immediately. She's his patron goddess, and she tries to soothe his fears. She says, come on, if you have me on your side, you're all good. Line 49 through 58. She says, let it go, Odysseus. Some people trust their puny human friends more than you trust me. And here I am, a goddess, protecting you in all your trials. To put it plainly, even if there were 50 squadrons of armed men all around us doing their mortal best to kill us, you would still be able to run off their cattle. Now get some sleep. Staying up all night will only sap your strength. All your troubles, Odysseus, will soon be over. And then she helps Odysseus go to sleep as well. So she helped Penelope go to sleep. Now she's helping Odysseus go to sleep, okay? So that's kind of bookends there. Next, morning. Odysseus prays for a sign that he is on the right track, towards this working, this whole revenge plot working. And Zeus thunders above, a big thunder, lines 114 to 132. A woman hears it. One of the servants hears it, and she says, Father Zeus, Lord of gods and men, that was a loud thunderclap out of a clear sky. You must be showing someone a sign. Will you answer an old woman's prayer? This servant says. She says, let this be the last and final day the suitors feast in Odysseus's hall. I've broken my back grinding their grain. Let this meal be their last. Odysseus smiled at this omen and at the thunder from Zeus. He would have his vengeance. So he's about ready to go. After this whole, this little Zeus thundering thing, Eurycleia wakes up and she orders the servants to prepare for a feast for the suitors. This is supposed to be a big party day. And Eurycleia's helping to set up the revenge. She's going to be one of Odysseus's linchpins, one that helps him get through this. So to have a feast, you have to have a bunch of food. Eumaeus shows up with pigs. He arrives and he compliments the beggar Odysseus. And then Melanthius arrives. He's the evil goat herder. He arrives this morning and he insults Odysseus. Lines 179 through 196. Eumaeus says, Stranger, are you getting any more respect yet, or are they still insulting you in the hall? And Odysseus the beggar says, Eumaeus, it is outrageous the way these men carry on in another man's house. May the gods punish them. They have no sense of shame. Melanthius shows up and he says, Are you still here pestering everyone? Why don't you get the hell outside? You and I are going to have to settle this with our fists. I don't like your way of begging. There are other feasts you can go to, Odysseus made no response, but sat shaking his head and brooding darkly. Now at this point, we meet a third herdsman named Philautius. He is a good servant, and he will also help Odysseus. So Odysseus, let's count. He has Athena, Telemachus, Eumaeus, Eurycleia, and now he's going to get this other guy, Philodius, to help him out, okay? There is another good servant who arrives, named Philotius. He is a cowherd. Lines 212 to 244, and he comes in, and he says some very nice things to the stranger Odysseus. He says, "Welcome, stranger, and may good luck come your way. Hard as things are for you now, Father Zeus, no god curses us worse than you. You have no pity for men, Zeus. You beget them, then plunge them into misery and pain. Stranger, I broke into a sweat when I saw you, and my eyes are full of tears. You remind me of Odysseus. He too is clothed in rags like this, I suppose, and is a wanderer like you, if he is still alive, that is, and still sees the sunlight. But if he is already dead and has gone to Hades, then I weep for noble Odysseus. He put me in charge of his cattle when I was a boy in the land of the Cephallenians, and now those cattle are past counting. No breed ever flourished like that for any mortal man. So he's a loyal servant. He's taking care of the cattle, even though Odysseus hasn't been around for 20 years. But now other men order me to drive them so they can eat them, with no regard at all for the sun in the house or the gods' wrath. No, they're hot to divide among themselves all the property for our long-absent master. As for myself, I go around and around in my heart, trying to decide. It would be very bad of me, while my master's son still lives, to go off to some other place with my cattle to a foreign land. But it is worse still to stay here and suffer in charge of herds handed over to others. I would have fled long ago, believe me, to some powerful lord, because things here are no longer bearable. Except that I still have some hope that my unfortunate master will someday return and scatter the suitors out of this house. So Philodius can be trusted. He is an ally. Odysseus the beggar has a prophecy of doom for the suitors. Lines 246 to 254, he responds to Philodius, "You're a good man, cowherd, and smart, and I see that you understand things, so I will say something and seal it with an oath." And he says, "With Zeus and all the gods above as witnesses, and by Odysseus' hearth and this table of hospitality to which I have come, I swear, Philodius, that while you are here, Odysseus will come home, and you will see, if you wish, the death of the suitors who lord it over this hall." And the cowherd says, "Oh, I hope that happens, Zeus," and he prays for it. So, he's got another ally here. Now, the suitors start to come in for the feasting, the all-day feast, and they still plan to kill Telemachus, but as they speak of it, a bad omen appears. It is an eagle clutching a dove. Amphinomus, who Odysseus tried to warn to get away, and Athena would not let get away, he says, "Oh, I saw that omen, and I don't really like that omen," and he says to the other suitors that they should abandon their plans and just eat, and they do. So that's good. Amphinomus tries to do the right thing by not killing Telemachus, but he is doomed to be killed. Telemachus really has grown up. He wakes up and he speaks to protect the beggar and his father's house. You can hear it. He's very commanding. Lines 283 to 288. He says to Odysseus the beggar, "Sit here among these heroes and sip your wine. I myself will protect you from their insults and keep their hands from you. This house is not a public inn, but the palace of Odysseus, who inherited it to pass on to me. So all you suitors, control yourselves. I don't want any fights breaking out here." Now they're all quiet. All the suitors are quiet until Antinous speaks up, because he's one of the lead suitors, and he's a jerk. And Telemachus gives him a huge heaping pile of food and wine. And the suitors don't like this. They think it's ridiculous. And they insult and they laugh at Telemachus a little bit. Now, at this point, we meet another terrible suitor. His name is Ctesippus. He is a rich, arrogant jerk, and he gives Odysseus the beggar a gift. He says, "I'll give him a gift," and he throws an ox hoof. Now, an ox hoof is kind of big, okay? It's like a big dinner plate. It's huge, and it's about this thick, and if you throw it at someone, it could hurt them. He throws it at Odysseus' head, and Odysseus dodges it. Telemachus is furious that a guest has been treated this way. But guess what? Ctesippus just made the list, right? This is lines 318 to 349. He threw the ox hoof. Odysseus ducks it, and Telemachus yells out, "You're damn lucky you missed him, Ctesippus, or rather that he dodged your throw, or I would have rammed my spear into your gut, and your father would have been busy with your funeral instead of making plans for a wedding. No more of this ugliness in my house from anyone." He tries to stand up. Telemachus is a man. He's standing up to these jerks. "I understand now what's going on around here, the good and the bad. I was a child before. But we still have to put up with all this, seeing the sheep slaughtered, the wine drunk, the bread. One man can't stop many. You don't have to be hostile to me, but if you are determined to cut me down, well, I'd rather be killed in cold blood than have to watch this disgusting behavior, guests mistreated and men dragging the women shamefully through these beautiful halls." Now, at this point, this guy named Agelaus is a suitor. He gives some bad advice. He says that Odysseus is most likely dead and that his mother should be forced by Telemachus to choose a new husband. Telemachus refuses. He says, "I will never tell my mom what to do. It's up to her." And he says a little speech. He says, "I swear by Zeus and by my poor father, who has either perished far from Ithaca or is wandering still, that I do not, Agelaus, delay my mother's marriage. On the contrary, I encourage her to marry the man of her choice, and I offer her a dowry of gifts past counting. But it would be shameful for me to order her to leave. May the gods forbid it against her own will." Now, at this point, Athena has all the suitors start cracking up and laughing at Telemachus. Total disrespect in his own house. Athena makes them cackle, just screaming with laughter. Absolutely insulting Telemachus. And at this point, Theoclymenus, who came over with him from Pylos, if you remember, he's on the run for murdering a man, and he's a seer, he's a prophet. He prophesizes again. You see how many times the suitors get warned from these prophecies that they are doomed, and they just ignore it. He prophesies, and he says, "Wretches, what wicked things, what wicked thing is this that you suffer? You are shrouded in night from top to toe." In other words, blackness. In other words, death. "Lamentation flares. Your cheeks melt with tears, and the walls of this house are spattered with blood. The porch and the court are crowded with ghosts streaming down to the undergloom. The sun is gone from heaven, and an evil mist spreads over the land." And they just laugh. They say, "Oh no, the newly arrived stranger has lost his mind. Get him outside since he thinks it's night in here." In other words, show him that it's daytime actually outside. They don't understand that this night, this darkness is death. And Theoclymenus says, "I don't need any escort, Eurymachus." So Antinous laughed, and now Eurymachus laughs. These are the two main suitors, and it's doubling, right? "I have eyes, ears, and my own 2 feet, and a mind in good working order. I'll leave under my own power, for I can see evil coming upon you, inescapable evil, for every last one of you who in your blind pride do violence to the house of Odysseus." They're in trouble. They're all still laughing. And Penelope, at this point, arrives in the room, and she sits down. They don't even notice because they're just laughing so hard. And she sits down for the meal. No meal could be more graceless than the one a goddess and a hero would serve to them soon, the suitors. After all, they started this whole ugly business. Now, at this point, I'd like to give you a what do you call it? An Easter egg. An Easter egg. The Easter egg is, please give me the last 4 numbers of the ISBN on the back of your book. The back of your book has an ISBN number. I want you to give me the last 4 numbers that are there after ISBN. Okay, the last four numbers of that list. It starts out 087220. What are the next four numbers? What are the last four numbers there? That's your jelly bean, your Easter egg, your points. You got to send them to me.